Welcome to Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends. Decades of analyzing Indian statecraft have shown us a recurring pattern: governments crumbling under corruption, deep fragmentation, and endless policy paralysis. Yet the past 12 years under the ruling regime have presented a different kind of systemic crisis: hyper-centralized authority masked by relentless public relations. When you peer inside the Modi Shah citadel, the illusion of flawless governance collapses under the weight of five undeniable administrative inefficiencies. First, the systematic breakdown of public examination integrity. Widespread paper leaks across competitive exams from NEET UG to state recruitment tests have paralyzed millions of students and exposed deep institutional rot in testing bodies. Second, severe infrastructure vulnerabilities. Despite record capital expenditure, high visibility projects from airport terminal collapses to failing bridges and highway erosions reveal rushed execution and compromised oversight. Third, regulatory overreach and bureaucratic gridlock. Centralized decision-making has created a climate of arbitrary tax notices and sudden policy shifts, causing private corporate investment as a percentage of GDP to stagnate. Fourth, exploding public debt. Total public debt has grown significantly over the past decade, with off-budget borrowings used to fund high-cost prestige projects rather than human capital like healthcare and primary education. Fifth, agricultural supply chain management. Despite assurances of doubling farm incomes, sudden export bans, unfulfilled support price guarantees, and erratic trade policies have left rural real wages stagnant. To cover these operational failures, the regime relies on five carefully crafted false narratives. The first is the Vishwaguru mirage, projecting global dominance, while human development metrics press freedom rankings and per capita income tell a far more modest story. The second is the zero corruption myth, framing the regime as incorruptible, while utilizing selective enforcement actions against opposition figures, many of whom see their legal troubles vanish the moment they join the ruling alliance. The third is the job creation illusion, redefining unpaid family labor and low-wage gig work as formal employment to disguise real youth unemployment. The fourth is historical blame distortion, attributing contemporary policy stumbles to decisions made decades ago, rather than taking current administrative responsibility. And fifth, the patriotic framing of communal friction, packaging majoritarian polarization as essential national security and distracting the public from economic realities. When paper leaks destroy dreams and propaganda replaces policy, the young people of this country are no longer asking for empty assurances. They are demanding a direct, uncompromising audit of power. That demand has now crystallized into a sensational national war cry: Yuva ka Inkilab, Youth ka Hisab. Welcome back to Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends, as we look beneath the surface of India's political machinery. A government driven purely by electoral mechanics cannot sustain majoritarian politics without an ideological foundation. That foundation is provided by the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS. The RSS acts as the structural bedrock for religious nationalism in India. It supplies the grassroots cadre, the cultural narrative, and the organizational muscle that fuels the ruling party's machine. By systematically placing ideologues across educational boards, cultural trusts, and administrative bodies, the RSS ensures long-term influence. The RSS ensures that Hindu majoritarianism is no longer just a political option, but becomes the default cultural setting of the state. It creates an environment where civil dissent is routinely framed as anti-national, and religious identity supersedes constitutional citizenship. The primary victims of this ideological machinery are the Indian youth. Instead of equipping Gen Z with world-class technical skills, critical reasoning, and global competitiveness, the system channels young energy elsewhere. The system channels young energy into digital culture wars, emotional outrage, and hyper-nationalist echo chambers. When competitive exams are repeatedly compromised, when formal manufacturing jobs fail to materialize, the future of our youth is being mortgaged for immediate political gain. When gig economy survival is rebranded as entrepreneurship, the structural precarity of young livelihoods is normalized. If no course correction takes place, India risks turning its famous demographic dividend into a demographic disaster. This drives skilled talent out of the country through brain drain while leaving millions at home with credentials that hold little market value. When you rob an entire generation of their economic future and offer them communal outrage instead of jobs, you don't build a stable nation. You build a pressure cooker instead. The youth are waking up to this deception. Their response is tearing through the regime's carefully curated narrative. Yuva ka inkilab, juhud ka hisab. Welcome back to Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends for the final part of our analysis on the limits of one-party dominance. The political model built by Narendra Modi and Amit Shah was designed for complete electoral control. But an electoral machine is not the same thing as a functional democratic government. The Modi-Shah citadel must yield for three fundamental reasons. First, the limits of extreme centralization. A complex nation of 1.4 billion people cannot be run by a two-man executive structure. When all major decisions flow through a single command center, administrative paralysis becomes inevitable. Local officials stop taking initiative, ministries become echo chambers, and critical warnings are ignored until crisis hits the streets. Second, the failure to generate genuine economic compounding. High public debt and high visibility infrastructure cannot substitute for private capital investment and rising household savings. An economic model built on prestige spending and corporate concentration ultimately hits a wall. Third, the destruction of democratic feedback loops. By undermining parliamentary oversight, press independence, and institutional neutrality, the current regime has blinded itself to ground realities. Without functioning feedback mechanisms, a government cannot correct its mistakes. It can only double down on propaganda. The Modi-Shah citadel was built on centralized control and the illusion of political invincibility. But no citadel withstands an entire generation rising up to demand receipts for lost years and broken promises. The era of passive tolerance is over. The street-level audit has begun, and its message to the ruling elite is definitive. Yuva ka inkilab, juhud ka hisab. Restoring India's future requires moving past an era of hyper-centralized command and returning power to the institutions, the state governments, and above all, the youth. Thank you for watching Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends. Stay sharp, stay informed, and let's keep analyzing the forces shaping our world.